Now that I do, that makes even more sense. But I mean, he's barely touched the ground since he took over the leadership, except when he came back home to put in the voice to Parliament, whichever said, no thanks, can you please go back to your, enduring holiday? It was better that way. But let's have a little chat about government dysfunction. From what I have heard, the Albanese government has been studying up on the French Revolution, especially their affection for guillotines. And I'm not talking about what the Parisians pulled after they dragged out a museum piece a few years ago during the Yellow Vest protests and it all got a little bit too French. I mean the guillotining of legislation in the Senate. Senator, tell us what's been happening.
Well, for a start, Alexandra, people need to understand that while the government has a majority in the lower house, it doesn't have a majority in the upper house. But in effect, it's formed a coalition. That's abundantly clear. The coalition is Labor, Greens, and Teal Senator David Pocock. Make no mistake, he's funded by the same people. He is a Teal. And now you can throw in lately Jackie Lambie's network because that's the coalition. But the three primary components are Labor, Greens and Teal David Pocock. And what they did when Morrison was in office was that the Greens were always open and transparent and pushing transparency. Now they've gone into shutdown mode. So whereas before they used to support us on orders for production of documents and so on, disclosing information, now they invariably support Labor in shutting things down. So the Greens are very, very close to Labor. They're intimately connected. And David Pocock talks about transparency. They all talk about transparency, don't they? The Greens, Albanese and David Pocock. But they're interested in looking after each other and making sure they protect each other. That's the thread of their coalition.
Yes, but it's been a very busy 2 weeks from what I understand. Although, to be fair, not much of this is making it into the press. Albanese's government have put forward all the worst policies that you can possibly imagine, including things like the Closing Loopholes Bill, the Nature Repair Bill, the Identity Verification Bill. What's been going on with this? Because some of these are extremely dangerous. The public disagrees with them. Every time Labor puts it up on Twitter, everyone goes crazy because no one's agreed to any of this stuff. They certainly didn't take it to the election. What's been going on down there as in forms of dangerous legislation that's been tabled?
Well, you can add to that list the Water Amendment Bill, and you can add to that list the Tobacco Bill, which was basically a shutdown. They did some good things with the Tobacco Bill. They amalgamated or condensed a lot of different pieces of legislation into one legislation looking after cigarettes and tobacco. But they smashed vaping. They actually destroyed that. And so that was a really serious thing there. They're looking after their mates in all these occasions. For the tobacco bill, for example, they're looking after the quit smoking industry, which they fund half a billion dollars in the next few years. So that's looking after their mates to get votes.